Before we go through this, you need to understand what product is and what it entails. Then what is product evaluation? Then what is product evaluation approach? Then what are the different approaches used to evaluate a product with relevant examples? So for you to understand what an product evaluation approach is, you need to understand what a product is, what it entails, what the product evaluation means exactly, then what product evaluation approaches also mean, and what are the different approaches used to evaluate a product with relevant designs. Before we go into a product evaluation approach, let's go let me explain what product is and the development. So a product is a tangible or intangible item offered. Example, garment, fabrics, or textile products. A fashion product goes through all the life cycle, that is the introduction, the growth, the maturity, and the decline. So a product is one of the marketing mix or the 7 P's. So a product development is a process of designing, creating, and bringing new products from initial concept to the market. So in fashion education context, a product development is often framed as a structured, iterative process linked creatively with design and technical with business consideration, ensuring a garment isn't just for beautification, but also to know what fits properly in manufacturing and meeting market demands. Product evaluation and approaches. So before we dive into it, product evaluation is the systematic process of assessing a product's performance, value, and market fit. So you need to evaluate your product before you bring it to the market. It's really, really important. So the next thing that we move is product evaluation approaches. Why do we need it? So we need it because they are the method of assessment that judge the quality or success of something based on the final result. So if you are producing a product, you need to evaluate it. So the products must pass through all the quality criteria before you can bring it to the market. So what are the key features of the product evaluation approach? So the key features are you focus on the finished item rather than producing it. You make sure it's neatly done. So let's say, for an example, you are sewing a garment. It has to be of international standard before you bring it out. Oh, we are selling it. No. So now the next thing that you use standard to judge the outcome. It should be of high quality. You can't just bring anything to the market and say, oh, this is a product I'm bringing, without passing through all the necessary criteria for you to bring out a product. So it's really important for you as a designer to bring out the necessary things that are important for you to bring out a product. So we have different approaches used to evaluate a product. So these are a few of the approaches used to evaluate a product. So here are 5 commonly used evaluated products in textiles and fashion. So we have product evaluation or outcome based. The next we have in line is process evaluation, then functional or performance evaluation, then we have consumer or user-centered evaluation, then we have aesthetic or design evaluation. So before I explain what it entails, let's move to the first one. That's the product evaluation or outcome based evaluation. So this is when you judge the finished garment or textiles against set criteria. So that's the finish, fit, stretchy quality, durability, aesthetic appeal without regard to how it is made. So the next in line is process evaluation. So this is when you assess the stages of production, that's the design development, pattern making, modeling, trials, problem solving, and skill progression. So it's always useful to track learning and craftsmanship development. So it's always good to process or know the stages of production so that if someone or an individual or student is learning, you know how his development is going. So the next thing that you need is um, the functional and performance evaluation. This is when tests are well made to produce a product that it performs in its intended purpose. So we have the comfort, ease movement, breathability, wrinkle resistance, color fastness, or wear and tear resistance. So this involves lab testing. That's example the tensile strength, pull test, or the wear trial. So it's important to know the product you are producing, what the strength and weaknesses of it before you bring it to the market. So the next in line that we have is consumer and user or user-centered evaluation. So this is when you gather feedback from your actual or targeted user on satisfaction, comfort, fit, desirability. So this method includes surveys, focus groups, wear trials, try-on sessions, closely cited to your size of your research. So to know what your product is able to get the challenges in it. So the next thing that we have is aesthetic or design evaluation. So this is when you assess the trials and creative qualities. That's the color harmony, the silhouette, the proportion, the cultural relevance, the originality, and trend alignment. So this is often through experts or panel judges, commonly in design juries and fashion critiques. So it's really important for your product to pass through all these stages, all different approaches used to evaluate your product. So without this, most of your product will not be able to stand the test of time. Before we move to the next subtopic of the development of product evaluation, we need to go back to how the different approaches on how to evaluate your product. So I'm going to give you an example of each of them so that you know how to go about it. So an example of the product evaluation, that's the outcome based. So an example, a fashion college grades a student's finished dress by checking if the hem are even, seams are straight, zippers in section is smooth, and silhouette matches the original skirt design, regardless on how many attempts it took to get there. So they just want what they need. They want the final design goes with it. So the next one that we have is process evaluation. So an example is a tutor evaluates a student portfolio showing the sketch, that's the first muslin prototype, fitting notes, pattern adjustment, and final garments. Then grading, the problem solving shown between the prototype, the first prototype and the finished piece, not just the end results. So the next thing that we have in line is functional and performance evaluation. So this is an example. This is when a sportswear brand tests a moisture wrinkle fabric by measuring how quick it absorbs and releases stress in lab conditions. When trials the finished garment on athletes to check the breathability and stretchy recovery during movement. So the functional and performance evaluation, this one a clothing brand or a sports brand wants to bring out a product. So you need to test it out so that you know how it will work on different athletes. So they just don't just bring it out, they need to test it out. So the functional and performance evaluation is really important in bringing out or evaluate your product. So next in line is consumer or user-centered evaluation. So an example is a Ghanaian clothing brand launches a new African fit trousers line and holds a wear trial with 30 men each from 40 to 50 in Accra. So collecting feedback on the waistband comfort, the tie room, the length. So the data that would directly validate their size. So if, let's say an example, a clothing brand wants to launch a fit, African fit, he needs to bring out the product, but he needs to try out on how the consumers feel about what they are supposed to wear. So they have a trial, they mostly a wear trial of about 30 men each, 40 to 45 in Accra. So they want to check if the waistband is good, the tie is good, fits them, the length of it is okay, so that they know that the measurement that they are using is really on point. So the next thing that we have in line is aesthetic and or design evaluation. So this is when a panel of judges at the Ghana Fashion and Design Week scores a Kente inspired collection with a color balance, how well modern silhouettes honor the traditional wave pattern and overall impact. So what I'm trying to say is so if they want to need to evaluate your product, they have to be a criteria or a criteria so that you'll be able to bring out your collection. So it has to go with the principles and elements that is needed in bringing out your product. So the product has to be on point. Now the next thing I go to the development of product evaluation. So we need an early concept. That's really important. You need a prototype ready. That's you don't have the actual, you don't have, it's something similar to it. It's the same thing, but just that it's not already really finished product. So then make the prototype ready. Then we have live product. That is done. It's really good. Like you need to try it on someone. Then you have a cream product they are supposed to bring out. You need that one. You try it on someone, it goes, then you can move on to the next one. Then you have to tight deadline. This is when you have been given a contract and you're supposed to finish on time. So you have been given like 30 garments to be sewn. So you have been given the deadline to, you need to make sure they are on point, the stitches and everything is on point. So these are the developments of how to evaluate your product. Thank you.